this is Phantom Enchantress, and this is called Bless My Soul. And it sounds like a cooking show, I know, but this isn't under cooking, so it must be something else. So, regardless of what religious background you come from, whether you're religious or you're spiritual, we're not going to get into that. I don't like to get into heavy discussions about controversial issues for obvious reasons. Okay. Let's get down to business. How do you bless things? Like, people, for instance, you know, religious leaders, priests will bless things. There will be water. Many religious leaders will do this, and it is a universal thing, and it has been incorporated in so many cultures and is still being practiced today as we know it. There are many ways to bless objects, but the most that everybody does, I mean, you can have prayers, there can be incense, you can have your favorite talisman, and so blessing is really just for everybody. It really is. Buddhists do it, Christians do it, everyone does, and you don't necessarily have to be affiliated with anything that's organized. You could just be doing your own thing, and you're looking to explore different avenues, different kind of spirituality. Either way, I'm glad that you're here. It's fantastic. Yes. So, anyhow, let's get down to business. And so one of the things that you can do is, if you are an online shopper like I am, which I know I shouldn't be, if you have AliExpress or Temu or Amazon or something where you can get costume jewelry, I know I never understood costume jewelry. I was just like, oh, so it looks like the real thing, but it isn't the real thing. Turns out it really doesn't matter. When it comes to objects that you have around the house, it can be anything. So, for instance, I got this from Temu. I don't know. Yeah. Actually, I got this from eBay. And this was from an actual, like, Chinese, seller, and I know we shouldn't buy things from China, but at this point, do we really have a choice? At this point, do we have a choice? No, I don't think so. But for anybody that made this in China, thank you. I'm much appreciative. I accept it with a grateful heart. And one of the things I did when I was on eBay, it was kind of my accident. I had a little bit of an accident, is I bought 2 of these. And I did not want to get 2 of these, but I did. Now, if you can kind of see, it's very pretty, but the way it kind of, depending on how it hits the light, it's going to look in a different way. And so, the first thing, if you're not familiar with blessing things, you don't have to, as I said, you don't have to be affiliated with something. You don't have to, you know, believe a certain thing necessarily. But one thing that you can do is, and this was very early on when I was introduced to blessing things. I was like, well, what do you mean blessing things? I mean, I've only heard of that in like weird religious movies that I've watched. So you can hold it in your hand and just kind of imagine a good moment in your life. Maybe you could, you know, remember something that was particularly meaningful, that maybe play some music that elevates you. But intention is literally when, so for instance, I intended to, you know, I have this intention to clean my room, okay? I didn't do it, but still, my intentions were pure. Was that the result? Maybe not, but your intention can also affect, it's not just that. Your intention can also affect how you do things, why you do them, your mental health. So intention is really kind of, it's one of those things that it can make or break you. If you are intending to do something, and you let people know that that's what you're going to do, then they will either expect that or they will expect something different. But intention when it comes to touching things and that is that I intend this to be a positive thing. Whenever I wear this, I want to feel good. Now, this is where the belief comes in. You gotta believe that that's what this is gonna do. Now, if you don't believe, yeah, it's just a piece of metal. It doesn't do anything. So, definitely some belief, but believing in yourself is really key. So, how to bless something is, it's very simple. And as I said, there's no, like, wrong ways to do it. It's just, finding a preference. There may be some wrong ways that I'm just not aware of. Like, trying to curse if you're doing the opposite of blessing and you're cursing it instead, which would be very unfortunate. Just kidding. But you know, you don't need to be meticulous, but be aware of what's around, what this is around, because you have energy. You have energy that is going out as we speak. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with someone that was, you know, let's say that you had a very heated argument, or you were in the side, maybe your parents were fighting, or your aunt and your uncle, or somebody that you knew that was fighting. There's this feeling in the air, a sting. It just is, and it just feels so, there's just this air of hostility. And it's just like, you can taste it, you can feel it. It is dark mojo, okay? And it sounds new agey, but this is old stuff that I'm telling you. Okay, this is old stuff. And the energy that you bring to anything really does affect. It affects how others see you. It can affect how you see yourself, and it can affect pretty much everything that you're doing. But intention is very much me saying, I love myself, and I want every time I see this to remind me that I am a worthy person to love. Now, this seems like affirmation bullshit, but I can tell you that affirmations are not bullshit. When people try to, you know, they try to bring positive, you know, like a positive thing about yourself. You might look in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm looking really nice today. I'm looking incredible. And this sounds really cheesy. I know it sounds cringy. It sounds like some positivity, some toxic positivity stuff. But I'm telling you is that we already do that. Affirmations are literally what our brain does naturally. You know, looking at our triggers, looking at our past, looking at the things that we should have done, or the things that we didn't say, that comes naturally. But the thing about affirmations is those center. That really centers the positivity, so to speak. So instead of you know, normally when we're thinking all of these things and we're thinking about ourselves and how we look and how other people see us, it's usually it's sometimes this very negative state of panic. We're just like, what do they think? What am I going to do? And it just, there's nothing to channel. But when you channel your focus, your mental focus, and say, I might not get everything done that I want to today, but I'm going to get something done. And I'm going to celebrate that. That way, when you have an intention to do something, you're not going to be like, I intended to do this and this and this, and I didn't, and therefore I am a failure. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. That would be horrible. And so, but another thing about intention is very powerful and affirmations centers your positivity. And what it does is it makes you think about things selectively. So like in a little line, you could write this down, you could do that, but say something that you would want to tell yourself if you were looking in the mirror, or tell your younger self, or maybe you want to tell your subconscious this, maybe. But I can tell you that our mind is very habitual. It's used to having habits. And when you utilize that part of your brain, and you always, let's say that you continually say, I'm a knockout, I'm fantastic, people like me, people love me, I'm a lovable person. And I say that every day. I don't have to chant it. I don't have to go all I don't have to go all Gregorian chants. I don't have to do that. But if I say that every day, just say I spend like 30 seconds to a minute to say that, it's gonna make a little groove. And your brain will naturally go to that. So whenever you're having a doubtful thought, or you're feeling bad about yourself, you can go to that, because that becomes the habitual thing, your habitual brain, so to speak. So in a lot of ways, when it comes to anything that you're practicing, there's a lot of psychology behind it. It's not just magic. It's not just lucky charms. It's not just, let me pray for 3 hours and bless these beads. It really is a habitual thing, and you're utilizing what you're naturally capable of doing, and that's what affirmations are. Now, do affirmations work all the time? No. Just thinking happy thoughts doesn't make everything go away. Think positive and you're depressed and it doesn't go away. Obviously that doesn't work. But affirmations will help you in the future. They may not help you right now, but in the future, the more you do it, it's just like a muscle. It's just like muscle memory. The more you do it, the easier it's going to be. And the easier these pathways are going to access. Now, it's going to be hard making roads over roads that have already been made. I get that. It's hard starting off. It's hard. It's like starting, it's like going so far in the level of the game and then having to start all over. It can be devastating. It can be a really hard transition. It can be a series of transitions. So affirmations are one of those things that you need to do the mundane. You need to do the things that will empower your decisions. So for instance, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to do this, and then you end up, eating junk food or not hydrating or not exercising or sticking to your health regimen, then that's not good. Or very similar to when alcoholics, for instance, when they're getting clean, they can't hang out with their the friends that they hung out with when they were drinking, because those are the people that pretty much didn't drive them to it, but when it's association. So definitely associate things that are going to balance you, that are going to empower and help you with this mental and possibly spiritual journey. But back to intention. Intention can be as simple as holding something in your hand and intending this to be something, whenever I touch this, whenever I put my finger on this, this is gonna make me feel better. Or just squeezing this and thinking, I really want to be empowered. I really want energy, or I really want this. And if you believe this, then that's what's going to happen. You've already blessed it. You've already done that. You could put sage on this. You could dab a little bit of sage on it. You could put some selenite on it. You could have it be in moonlight if you're really particular about the cycles of the moon. That's fine. Or you could just wear it. Just wear it at certain times. Just be like, okay, I'm gonna wear this, and I'm just gonna wear this and put it on, and it's gonna absorb all the good energy. So like at a certain time of the day, like let's say that you like biking or walking or doing something that just you really enjoy, and you're wearing this, then you're going to associate. This is also about association. This isn't all about belief. This is all about association. So when you think of this, you think of, think of this, whenever I put this on, I'm thinking of my most blissful moment. And immediately this little doohickey may actually give you some help. Okay, maybe it's not magic. Maybe it's a piece of shit, okay? I got this from frickin' China. It came on a slow boat from there. Well, it wasn't that slow. It was more like a slow plane. Actually, it was really a fast plane. So, kudos on that. But, yeah. There's nothing particularly special about this. It's nice. It's got a metallic thing. It's cool. It's got one of these weird chains that you would put on your keys, and but it's nothing special. I mean, I love the filigree that's on it. I think that's very extravagant. Is it anything that's expensive? No. It was like $2. Okay, but this is what it is. Okay, if you don't believe in anything, and I mean nothing, believe in yourself. Remember those times when you were watching Harry Potter and you thought, gee, I wish magic could exist. But you are the magic, honey. Your imagination is magic. And the friendships that you make, and the places that you go, and the things that you experience that are positive for you are magical. The times when you're happy, when you're laughing, when you're having fun, and you're being you're just enjoying life, that is magic. And you don't have to believe in anything else, but believe that you, with your abilities, can reshape how your mind works. Your brain's not going to change. Nah. But your mind and the way that you see things and the way that you see yourself can be changed. You can't change other people. Nah. But you can change yourself, and it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort, okay? I had some body dysphoria, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I've had some body dysphoria. Everybody else that I know just sees somebody very beautiful. I, on the other hand, for many years, just thought, why? I was astounded by this. People would say I was comely. I would get hit on. It was just, it was a very confusing thing for me, because when you are being body shamed and then all these other people are saying, oh, you're beautiful, it's confliction. There's a lot of confliction. And who do you believe? Do you believe your friends or your family? Do you believe this person, or do you believe the other person? And when you're a child, that's very confusing. So, and that will go with you in adulthood. And I'm going to say the number of people that have body dysphoria and anorexia and all sorts of, and I'm going to say the percentage of people that have, not just body dysphoria, but have eating disorders, are actually men. That is disturbing, because the media has always told us that, oh, the women, they're sticking their finger down the throat and they're vomiting and doing that, and that's so heartbreaking. But we see it with women all the time, because that's what the media and Hollywood shows. We don't see the men that are looking at their bodies or going to hitting the gym because they don't think that they're perfect enough, or doing, sometimes men are just like women, they can hide those things. They can hide them. And there's just a sense of shame that comes with that, so people don't open up about it. And I can tell you there's nothing to be ashamed of. What put you there was probably not your fault. And it is just like anything. It's a coping mechanism. It's not a healthy coping mechanism to look at your body and think, I need to change it fast, I need to exercise, or I need to throw up, or I need to do those things. That's obviously not it. And sometimes, you know, people have this without having any sort of, you know, trauma at home. But I can tell you trauma is usually a big contributor when it comes to eating disorders and body dysphoria. Body dysphoria is literally what will lead to eating disorders, whether eating too much, eating too little, wanting to vomit everything up. It can be really serious, and I'm not saying this as in that's funny or that's shameful. No, I'm saying that is heartbreaking, and I think that men should get these stories told, and I understand why they haven't come forward, because so many women are kind of just hogging the spotlight. I mean, when a woman comes forward, I mean, there is kind of a and this isn't that there's an exception to this, but I'm gonna say, when a woman comes forward and says, oh gosh, I'm having so many issues, like I hate my body, I look fat, and that kind of thing, other women will come forward and just like, oh my gosh, that's what I feel. But when it comes to a man, how many men are going to come forward and say, yeah, bro, yeah, I totally hate my body, you know? And, you know, women have so many, we have eating disorder groups, we have Facebook groups, we have, now we probably have even more outlets with all the social media popping up, you know, new things coming up. So we have we have book clubs and stuff. And men, on the other hand, I don't see a lot of, I don't see a lot of support groups for men. And you know what? I'm all for gender equality. You know, I don't like to bash either one. I like to empower both of them, you know what I mean? Because, you know, we both have a right to be here. We both have a right to take up space. And we both deserve to be heard and seen and validated. So I don't think that there's anything unusual about that. I think we are all struggling with something. And I can tell you, it's been a process for me to get through that dysphoria myself. I didn't even realize I had it until I started kind of examining my own behaviors, and I realized this is body dysphoria. This is not healthy. I started like counting calories. And if you don't know this, counting calories doesn't lose weight. It doesn't. It's actually been scientifically proven. So, and not saying that people don't lose weight counting calories, but the majority they have found don't lose weight because of counting calories. But I was subconsciously this was just a natural thing. This is something that I had just picked up. I looked at the packages of food that I was eating and I was counting the calories. And I didn't realize how damaging that was. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was self-regulating without even knowing it. And some of us do this without even knowing it because we are so accustomed to this. Isn't that just wild that some of us just do things instinctually because we don't even know why we do them? We're just doing things. And that's very common. We do things over and over again and we don't think about, why am I doing this? Why am I brushing my teeth? Why am I doing these rituals before I go to bed? Why am I doing this? Why am I having coffee in the morning? Because it makes me feel good. Why am I doing this? Why am I on YouTube? You know, you got to question yourself a little bit and challenge what you're doing, because that's just natural. And I understand it's really hard when somebody gives you a new idea and they say here, and you're like, no, I don't want that. No, that's a new idea. It's new and it's scary and it's just, no. you know, and it's really hard, and you shut down, you get defensive because you don't want to accept new information. But I'm going to tell you, the only way that you're going to learn is to kind of open yourself up a little bit. You don't need to accept the world as it is, okay? You don't have to be a part of the world, be a sheep, or be on the trend, or whatever, talk the talk and walk the walk. You don't have to do anything that's like anybody else, okay? But what would be good is we can self-regulate. If we can self-regulate without even thinking about it, do you think that you could probably change that? Yes. If you, for instance, if you're in a room and you're pulling out the milk jug and you don't remember why you did that, you might think to yourself, well, how did I get here? What was I doing? Why was I here? Why did I need milk? Do I need milk even? And then you might very slowly figure out, this is how I got here. Obviously, I walked. I didn't just teleport and show up into the kitchen in front of the refrigerator. Obviously, I wasn't abducted and taken there or sent there by aliens. I actually used my legs to propel myself from my room to the living room and then to the kitchen. Or, depending on how your house is set up. But obviously I walked there, okay? And so that right there is just really what your brain is used to. And that's what kind of shadow work is a little bit like. And shadow work is obviously a little bit more complicated. It was invented by Carl Jung. Carl Jung is one of the fathers, one of the known fathers of psychology. And he believed that if you examined the things that triggered you and found out why, then you might have a better way of preventing it. And if you don't know how to prevent it, you can have a better way of managing it and realizing, how can I self-regulate? So, for instance, if you show up in a place and you have no memory of why you were there, here's the connection, is that you can find a way to get back. It's not a detour. You don't have to go through the woods or through thorn bushes to get there. Unless you have a lot of, issues up there. But, maybe you need the weed whacker. I don't know. I'm not in your brain, thank goodness. But, yes, another thing is, be easy on yourself when you do affirmations or when you set goals. I know people that will set goals, and they are goals that are like, should probably have been, or like a 10-year plan, like what you're planning to do in 10 years, rather than, yeah, let's do that tomorrow, It's like, okay, for instance, people could be like, okay, gotta clean the garage, something you've been putting off. I don't know, don't have a garage, but that's always a scenario in the movies, like, I gotta clean out the garage. So they clean out the garage. You know what? A lot of things might have accumulated in the garage, and you're not gonna get through it in a day. Okay, that's not gonna take you 10 years, but it may take you a week. Maybe it might take you a month to get it done. We don't know how much shit is in that garage, but you might have to, throw things out, clean, make sure there's no rats or spiders that have crawled under things, just those kind of things. Do we need an exterminator? Do we need professional help? Do you want to put some carpeting or some tiles down? Those kind of things. Those may not be something that you can do tomorrow. Okay? So try to do little things like, let's worry about the boxes. Let's worry about the floors. Let's worry about, you have things so that you do not set yourself up for failure. And that's what a lot of people do. They set themselves up for failure unknowingly. But I'm going to say, if you got to that point, to the garage, or you got to that point where you're completely lost and fed up, okay, honey, you got there. You got to that point. And if you got yourself into that, you can get yourself out. It's like Richard Simmons, okay? You put that food in your body, you get to burn it off, okay? You're taking that, yeah. You put that weight on, you can take that weight off, okay? That's the thing. You got the power. You are a powerful being, full of energy and muscles and skeletal system. It's very complex. Very complex. Oh, it's so complex. And you weren't made in a day. Were you? Maybe you were. I don't know. You weren't made in a day, actually. Depending on how you look at it. There was a lot of steps that required you to get to this point, okay? You didn't your mom didn't just let out a scream and then you just appeared in your glorious self and said, "Ha-ta! Ta-da! Huzzah! I've arrived." No, obviously you couldn't open your eyes and you looked like a wrinkly old man, you know, and you're slimy. You know, there's processes that you go through, and even when we're complex. Think about how when you're developing in the womb. There's a process of growth. And we continue this growth when we're not physically growing. I think we should take it upon ourselves to mentally grow. And that means not just like exposing yourselves, you know, obviously there's going to be certain things that you might not want to do. Like, for instance, okay, you know, I'm going to go hang out with these, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses that came over to that knocked on my door without calling me first. You might not want to do that. Or I might not want to hang out with a bunch of Satanists just because, you know, I like to meet new people, you know, use your common sense and work within your comfort zone. You only have to go a little bit out of your comfort zone. You don't have to, you know, all of a sudden, that's kind of like, you know, you wanting to be a scientist and then thinking, I need to build a rocket. No, that's not realistic. You have to think about what kind of science you're going to do. You might not be a rocket scientist. You might not even want to be a scientist at that point because you tried to make a freaking rocket on your first try. So you may want to slow down a little bit and just trust the process. That's what they say, trust the process. If you don't trust the process, trust that your brain has everything. You got all the tools in here. All you got to do is use them. You use the tools and you can get a lot of things done. Is it easy? No. It's not. It's not easy. But I can tell you through repetition, I have repetitively looked in the mirror, and this is one of the things I would say, and I would find one aspect that I liked about myself. I would say, I really like my hair, or I really like this, or I really, oh, and I'd say, wow, you know, or I'd say something like, oh my gosh, that is one sexy lady. You know, you could say something like that. Compliment yourself. Give yourself the credit. You got this far. You came. You're sitting there with the milk jug in your hand. Obviously, you had some sort of purpose. So if you got yourself there, you can get yourself out. Now, you might need some help. Sometimes helping. Sometimes people helping, you know, other people helping you, mentors, friends, family, people that you trust, therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, those kind of things can help too. Your doctor can help you attain those goals. You're not all by yourself. You're not just, you know, you're do it yourself. That's not it. But as far as intention goes along with affirmations, which is why I'm talking about affirmations and psychology. Affirmations are what your brain does normally. I don't know if you've always had an experience that was really traumatic to you and you always think about it because you associate it with this. You associate with that. I've had people that will not look at clowns. They won't even own them. They don't even want to look at them because of a traumatic event that they had. Because every time they think of that, they see that clown, they associate with the trauma. And so by giving yourself positive associations, you might be able to very slowly make a new path. It's not necessarily on top of it. Sometimes it's across it. Sometimes what you're doing is you're creating a bridge over the issues, over the tribulations and the problems and the obstacles. And sometimes we create these obstacles ourselves. I'm just saying, we do. We definitely do. We create these obstacles, but if we've created these obstacles, we can essentially we can rebuild. Okay, you might not rebuild the pathways that you've made. Those pathways will probably still be there, but they just won't be as, used as often. And when the only thing that we're doing is utilizing what our brain does naturally, and that's to repetitively make a path that will get us to point A to point B. And if we can do that, just saying, if we created the obstacles, we can tear them down. Or we can make new ways of getting around the obstacles. We don't actually have to go over them. We don't have to go around, under them. We don't have to go above them. We can go around them. We could make a detour. And our brain, that's why our brain is constantly, I don't know if you've seen this, but with a lot of things, your brain does repair itself. It is a very regenerative organ, I think. And when you have had certain things that are too much for you, your brain tries to help. If it's got an injury, it tries to repair itself. Now, is it going to ever be the same? No, it's probably not. When it comes to brain damage or PTSD, your brain's never going to be the same. And, people tell you, oh, get over it. You know what? You may never get over it. But what can change is that the way that you respond, you can respond instead of react. And what's going to change is you're going to get better coping mechanisms. You're going to get better ways of managing. When you have a trigger, you're going to still be triggered, okay? That doesn't go away. It's going to come and go, and it may be less frequent here and there. Maybe it may be really strong at certain times of the month, or maybe, sometimes there are certain periods of people's lives that's just very dark. Somebody, this happens, sometimes when someone's anniversary comes up, like some people will have a, let's say it's somebody's birthday and that person has passed away. Then you might be really sad at that time of year. That's actually pretty normal, and there are a lot of things that can change. The way that you eat, the amount of sunshine you're getting, the people you're around. There's so many variables and so many possibilities of what's going on that's causing mental disruptions or depression. And sometimes our brain just naturally gets depressed. It's just the way it is. And I think depression, to me, was intentionally supposed to be for us to process things. It was supposed to slow us down. But now we live in an era where pretty much, we have all the conveniences that we could think of. We have things that are very accessible to us through the internet, and some of them are quite inexpensive. And we get all of those things. Yeah, and we get all of those things, and we incorporate them together. And, essentially, really is, PTSD is one of those things that, you might not ever get over it. I'm just saying, you might find yourself struggling, and, but depression is one of those things that's just, there's not always a reason for it. It's not always, oh, I'm a miserable person. It's not like that. It's not a Gloria Swanson thing where you're like, oh, or a Greta Garbo, or that kind of thing, or, you know, Sarah Bernhardt, you know, you putting your, you know, being over dramatic. It's not always like that. Depression is sometimes, hi, how are you doing? Remember, people don't fake depression. They fake being mentally healthy. So don't be surprised when somebody disappears or goes missing, and then you find a note later and you're like, oh, but they were so happy. Were they though? There's a lot that you can hide behind a smile, honey, because I can tell you, sometimes the person that's smiling the biggest is often the most miserable. It's not because they're miserable human beings. It's not because of that. No, sometimes people give and give and give, and there's only so much you can give, and eventually you don't have a lot left over. And when you don't have a lot left over, you don't have the mental energy or the physical energy to take care of yourself. And when you are compromising your happiness and everything that you are just so other people will be happy, you're not happy and you're not healthy. That's how that works. I wish someone had told me that, but I'm learning that now. So better late than never, you know. But the way I see it is really, to be honest, is depression, I think, used to be able to slow us down. Now it is one of those things where I don't know if depression is hereditary, but I believe it is in some cases. And it's just kind of life. And sometimes there's not a reason for us to be sad, or a reason. We just need to be sad. We need to be able to reflect. And I can tell you, when I was depressed, I was like so depressed. And I just looked around and I was seeking help. And I was just like, help me. And somebody did. And then I looked around and all the other people, they were gone. And I really, you know, there were the people that I really thought were my friends. They didn't pull through. But then I saw the people that did. And that meant a lot, because I reached out and I said, I'm really depressed. Like, I am in, like, oblivion right now. Like, I can't even think straight. And it was just, that's the way it was. And I said, and I remember one of my best friends, putting on a puppet show for me. Just putting on a puppet show for me, and singing Tiny Tim songs, and I had to laugh, and I just said, I know you're a real friend, because you actually are trying to cheer me up. And I looked to these other friends, and they weren't around, and I realized, those aren't real friends then, are they? No, they're not. You really know who your true friends are when you really need emotional stability, and they're not there. That makes you really, really reevaluate that. And after that, those friends, I did not remain in contact with them because they weren't there. You know, I was just in a really dark place, and they weren't there. And I understand they have their struggles and their issues and all of that, but the thing is, I was there for them. You know, I was there for them. I was there for them, and they weren't. So it's I would like for everybody, you know, to get, you know, you give this much and they give you this much back, that there would be an equal exchange, but rarely is there. There rarely is. But I can say to you, if you have, like, depression every once in a while, I'm just gonna say, do this as an experiment. The next time that you're depressed, Text all your friends, and call up all the friends and tell them that, and see how they react. Because I did that. I once had a guy literally tell me how stupid I was for being depressed. Like, he just outright said, "You're just stupid." I'm just like, you really are a piece of work if you think that you can just sit there and tell me that I'm stupid. Yeah. She's like, "You're beautiful. Why can't you see that?" I'm like, when you're depressed, can you see anything at that point? Obviously, when people are depressed, sometimes they get to a point where they can't even see and they can't even hear the people that are there. But I can tell you there are certain moments where, you know, you have this awareness of, like, these are my friends. These are people that I can relate to. And when you're depressed, you kind of go back to your simplistic brain, so to speak. The habitual brain, the brain that says, "Today's going to be a dark day, isn't it?" "Yes, it is, my friend." "How dark?" "Very." "Are we going to do this again? Are we going to do the Kubrick stare again?" "Yes." "Good." You know, you go back to that. It's a very simplistic kind of thing. Probably a lot of less villainous, though. But I could tell you that, you know, it's a very simplistic thing, and sometimes depression will it will keep you from reaching out, and it will keep you from seeing the people that are already there in front of you. And so but I can assure you that if you're there and you just say, hey, you know, you don't come in and be like, "I gotta help you and I gotta solve all these problems." I've had people that are like that, and God bless them, but they make things worse, because it's just like, I just want you to validate that I am depressed. I do not need you to tell me to go roller skating. I don't need you to tell me that I need to go and be social. I don't need for you to give me solutions, because presently, right now, depression does not have a solution. This depression doesn't have a solution. But so when you approach someone with depression, I suggest, it's a recommendation, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but I'm gonna say is, if you just approach it like slowly, patiently, be like, "Okay, you know, I understand you're going through a rough time. I'm here for you," and don't try to compliment them. That's usually not a good idea, because they will, if they are truly depressed and cannot see even a little iota of light, they are not going to they're not going to be like, "Oh, that's so sweet." You're going to say, "Oh, you know, you're so golden, you're so nice, and I just love you." And you could say something that was really sweet, you know, like, you do this. They're just going to be like, "I want to hear it. I don't want to hear it." And you're just like, okay. And his best thing is just not to take that personally. If they say something to you that is hurtful, that is not them that is speaking. It is the demons within. No, I'm just joking. No, that is pain. Pain is speaking, and pain is not always a great communicator. Pain often sounds very condescending. It sounds really miserable. It doesn't sound like the person, and you know, if they don't sound like themselves, that is pain. That is literally the pain of depression speaking. That's not them. They're not saying that they don't love you, or they don't like you, or they don't want to have you around. It's just they need some space, and you can give them some space, but you can also be in the background and say, you know, be the cheerleader that is in the distance, and be like, "Okay, you know, if you want me to cheer for you, I will. I'll be here." But they do not need a cheer squad. They do not need solutions to the problem, because often there is not a problem. There is not a solution to that problem. I can tell you, You can take all the drugs in the world and take all the therapy and go roller skating and socialize and do all that and still be depressed, okay? So, and thinking positive doesn't always help either, so I do understand that. But when you're not depressed, you can utilize your brain to do things, and sometimes depression, there's certain depression that is just situational, where it's just the people that you're around. I can tell you that if you're around a person that is just an emotional vampire or is just abusive or toxic, that's going to really make a difference. So you could take all the drugs in the world and get out and do those things, but then you have to go back to that person. You're just going back to the same mud pit, okay? Like, you're not changing, you're not doing anything, and I understand. I went back to the mud pit as well. You know, we all wallow in the same mud pit sometimes. It's just something that we do, and eventually we figure out, I don't live here. I don't live in the mud. I don't live with the pigs. I live in an actual home. I live with people that love me, and my life isn't like that anymore. Or I'm not with that person anymore. They are not here, and they do not get that power. And that is what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness isn't about, oh, I just love you, even though that you screwed me over and you did all these horrible things, but it's okay, it's okay. I'm letting you off the hook because I'm a good person. And Jesus said that I should. Okay, first of all, yeah, that doesn't work. It's nice that Jesus said that, but Jesus did not say that you need to be a doormat. Okay, I've looked in the Bible and I have not found that in there. So I know it's inside and out, actually, from from front to cover. I know everything. There's probably nothing that you're gonna tell me about the Bible that I don't know already. And I'm not being egotistical. I used to have a great interest and a great desire to read it. But besides that, forgiveness is about, guess what? You hurt me. It still hurts, but I'm not going to allow you to hurt me over and over and over again. I'm not going to relive the things that you did to me. I'm not going to play the victim of you hurt me, because when you play victim and you're like, oh, you hurt me, and this person did, people will subconsciously try to do that, and that sounds childish, but we subconsciously do that because we want to be validated, and it's hard. But by all means, tell people the horrible shit people have done to you. Tell people about it. Yeah. Do you need to tell everybody about it? No, but tell the people that want to listen, that like to listen. Freedom of speech, you know, be able to just say something. Say it. It might help. But there's a time and a place for it, obviously. If you're, you know, in line, you know, waiting for, obviously, if you're in a line at Safeway, it's probably not a good time to announce that you've been, about your trauma. Obviously, you know, you're not going to do that in a Subway. You're not going to do that in a Subway sandwich shop either. There's just times and places for that, you know, therapy sessions, when you're with friends or family or people that actually want to know, you know, read the room. Read the room. That's very important. It's hard to do, but it can be done. And it's one of those things, you know, there are times, there's a time and a place to take up space, and there's a time and a place for us to express what's going on. And sometimes it's not, you know, people will actually say, like, I'm not down with it, like, I don't want to talk about that, and that's okay. Especially if they're nice about it. If they're like, you know, I don't really feel like talking about your trauma, or, you know, this is kind of triggering to me because I've had the same kind, or, you know, if they're explaining and maybe it's just very abrupt, they're like, I don't want to talk about that, then you can respect that. Now, if it's consistently happening, that's called abuse. No. If it's consistently happening, don't go to that person. Obviously, because that's not a reliable person that can take that kind of emotion. You need someone that is a little bit more calm and maybe understands that kind of trauma that you've been through. That's a good thing to do. But the main thing is just to get somebody, you know, that can listen, and enjoys listening, and isn't trying to run away from you or get away from you quickly, and you don't have to chase them down for it. Because if they're trying to run from you, you might want to think about why. you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's one of those things. You know, you gotta be safe about that. But another thing is, you know, there's nothing wrong with telling people, you know, your boundaries and that kind of thing, because that's totally fine. And if somebody states their boundaries, like I had a woman tell me, I had a woman actually go up to me and said, because I was, you know, I was in her space, and this is one of those areas where we were supposed to be in each other's space. You know, this was a theater, so she kind of told me, she pulled me aside, and she says, I don't mean to be mean, but if you smack my face, I may have to drop kick you. I was like, understood, message received. But then I kind of looked at her, I saw her eyes, and she wasn't there. I knew she wasn't probably going to drop kick me, but I saw the kind of the glint in her eyes, like, I probably won't, but I could. And that definitely sent me a little shiver down my spine. And then I was like, I totally understand. I will be aware of my surroundings. I'm so sorry. Because we were dancing and singing, and my hand was in her face. So I was like, I totally get that. I was like, I totally understand. I don't want like people touching my face either. You know, it's a sensitive area. So, she said, thank you so much. And after that, we were friends, and we were fine, and nothing happened. She did not drop kick me. I'm thankful that she doesn't, but she is a beautiful person as far as I'm concerned, and I can't really say anything negative about her. She's, you know, just tell me what it is. I mean, if you are having an issue with something that I'm not aware that I'm doing, and it's bothering you, then tell me. Don't wait for the last moment. Communicate and say it and set those boundaries, because I will respect that. Those are your boundaries. I will not violate them. I happen to know what it is to have my own boundaries violated, and not to have boundaries. And it's very, very yeah, it's very bad. Okay, it's just bad. I don't want to have to open that can of worms, but yeah. It's not a fun thing, and just, you know, being respectful of people. If there's anything that I've learned with paranormal investigating and with people alone, is respecting people's boundaries, and valuing that people respect your boundaries. And when you have that, you know, coexistence, that going back and forth, there's this equality that you have when you are with people that respect your boundaries and you respect theirs, and there's a bond. And I have done this, and I've seen so many people, like, when it comes to spirits and things, automatically people get disturbed. They're just like, there was a phone and it wasn't plugged in, and then I answered it, and it was my grandmother. Actually, that would be really horrifying. But that's my grandmother. I don't, you know. I thought it was kind of scary. How would I describe my grandmother? Oh, my grandmother. Let's not go there. But Satan has a restraining order on her, so that should kind of tell you, what's going on with that. I just have a restraining order, for Freddy Krueger, because, you know, I I got you know, I just love burn victims. No, I'm just joking. That is not how I love all people. I don't really have a the only people that I don't like are scammers, and obviously people that do weird things with children. You know, those are people that I might not hang around or like, but I don't hang around them, so I don't really have that I don't really have that issue. So I will just respect them from a distance, like a good neighbor. Stay over there, thank you. So yeah, there's that. And but there's only thing when somebody answers the phone and it's a lost loved one, and or something fun, you know, you believe that you've communicated. Like some people have near-death experiences, or they go to sleep, or whatever it is, and they think that they're talking to a loved one. I'm not going to disapprove that that's your lost loved one. No, not at all. If you believe that that is your that is your dead loved one, then that's who it is. Okay. If that is your belief and it is sacred. Now, if I saw someone that had died, the first thing that I would say is, this is obviously my brain trying to deal with this grief. But also, I have seen spirits are natural shapeshifters. They can be anything that they want to be. And if they want to appear to you as your long lost, you know, relative or somebody that you loved or cared about, they will do that because they desperately want to make a connection with you. Spirits want to make an emotional attachment, emotional connection. They don't want to just be emotionally attached. They want an emotional connection. Emotional attachment is literally what we do when we, you know, for instance, we mistake emotional attachment with emotional connection. Emotional connection is a bond. Emotional attachment means, I need you or else I'll fall apart. Wait, I don't really love you, but I need you. That's emotional attachment. That is like you feeling, you know that girl that's just like crazy about that guy, and that guy is freaking toxic, and he's on a motorbike and he pulls people's teeth, and he's singing about being a dentist, you know, like in Little Shop of Horrors, you know, and she's just like, oh my God, I just love him, and he's just horrible, you know, he's the scum of the earth. But there's just something about him that's an emotional attachment, that because you're not making an emotional connection with your person. You're not like being, oh yeah, you know, I love looking at teeth too, you know, and they're like, yeah, well, I like that too. Can I get to know you better? That kind of thing. That would be an emotional connection because you're establishing it. You're establishing emotion. But emotional attachment is like, I feel so good when this person is around, and I won't feel good unless they're around me. And it defies logic. It kind of, now this isn't always the case, but emotional attachments are often that way. They're done in desperation. They're done because you're in a dark place in your life, and we cling to things that sometimes we shouldn't. Alcohol, drugs, all sorts of things that can deprive us from being mentally healthy, but it can happen. It is, we go for things that we hope will give us stability, and sometimes we just haven't been taught what emotional stability is. So we will make emotional attachments, and emotional attachments are painful when you have to deal with them, because it's very much like having to take one fingernail off at a time, and it's very slowly, mind you, and trying to, you know, get, you know, these cords. I mean, just imagine you have all these cords around you. Cords. For every single time somebody hurt you, there's a cord. for every single time you've kissed this person, for every single time you've hugged them, for every single time there's just another cord upon cord upon cord upon cord upon cord that is just weighing us down, and eventually we can't really move because there's all these cords that are around us. I don't know if you remember seeing John Goodman in The Borrowers, and all the borrowers just wound him up. He couldn't move because of all these twine that was around him. And it can be very constricting, these emotional attachments. So make sure that you make emotional connections, you know, and not just emotional attachments, because, as I said, emotional attachments are a little bit, they're attached to you. They attach. It's like taking off your skin when you have to get out of that relationship. So a lot of people don't understand that. They're just like, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just go? Oh yeah. You know, and I heard that a lot from, I have seen it on social media. I have had people say it to my face. I have had people doing that, saying just leave. I'm just like, okay, you know, I did that. I just left. And I can tell you that was not a wise thing to do. I can tell you that if you just, let's say that you wanted to move someplace, okay? You wanted to move someplace, and you moved all the way on the other side of the United States, okay? You moved, you know, from this place to all the way over here, and you did that, and you didn't think, maybe I should have a job, maybe I should have a house, maybe I should have things that, you know, I should have a car, you know, those kind of things that you need, and you're just showing up there. So often when someone leaves an abusive or toxic environment, whether it's their friends, their family, a spouse, you know, a partner, it's really hard, because often that means leaving means just like, it's a very painful thing, because it's often just one toe at a time getting out the door, and it's a process, I can tell you. It's not just opening the door and going, yay, I'm free. It's more of like, what am I leaving behind, and why am I leaving, and where am I going to go to? Because often leaving or just going means you have nothing. You have no stability. So by telling someone that they just need to leave and not giving them a solution, like a place to go, you're literally telling them to just go on the streets. So be careful what advice you give people, because it might seem like a really good solution, but if you haven't dealt with trauma or an abusive relationship, you might wanna, you see that you know that the thing where your mouth is going up and down and it's moving, close it. Stop that. Because don't. Yeah, when it comes to giving advice, it's best not to be impulsive, and it's best to give, I would not recommend it, unless it's one of those things, best not to ask. If a woman or a man or anybody is involved with something someone that's toxic or abusive, the worst thing that you can say is, just leave. Just leave. Oh, just leave. Yeah, just leave everything that you know. Just leave all your things that you can't get back, and just go on the streets scrounging for food and recycling so that you can probably eat that day. Great. Okay, that's fantastic. I'm gonna be homeless now because you told me to just go. You know, I'm sorry, but not all of us are that impulsive. Some of us actually have feelings, and we actually have issues that we need to get through. We have things that we need to organize. We actually have to find a place to go in order to escape that person. Witness protection programs, things like that. And that's not going to happen overnight, okay? Sometimes there is a process. Everything is a process. And when it comes to getting trauma, it is not your job to tell them in what time they need to heal or need to get over it, because guess what? They're probably never going to get over it. Okay, so be kind, be understanding, and be patient. Try not to rush people that are going through a tough time. I myself, sometimes I see people that I know are just finding their identity and they're just finding out who they are, and it's heartbreaking to watch. It really is, but it's heartwarming also, because it's a bittersweet thing. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're worrying me, but I realize these are the steps that you need to take. You need to do these things. And sometimes when we are people, like we're professional caregivers, otherwise not professional, but we just take care of everybody. When you have someone like that, there's something that's lost. You lose a bit of your identity and who you are, and you lose a part of yourself, essentially. And you have to get that back. You have to realize, well, what do I like? What do I enjoy? And so some of that time being with that toxic or abusive person, maybe, some of that time may be used essentially, to figure out who you are. And then when you realize who you are, you can take that power and you can leave, because you realize that you have the strength to do that. But before, that's why men and women don't leave. They don't leave because it's like, you're wondering, what is this illness that they have that makes them go back? It's because sometimes that's the only thing they've ever known, and they need to figure out who they are before that they can actually take that first step. And taking that first step can be excruciating, because that means you're separating yourself from that person that you loved, that person that you took care of, or the person that took care of you, the person that you built, much of your life to help. It's the person's been a part of your life, and you're telling a person to just leave? Yeah. But you need to find a solution. Of course they need to leave, okay? That may get Captain Obvious, but does it need to be now? No, it does not necessarily mean to be now, unless, of course, that person is threatening you in some way or is really going to endanger you. Then yes, that would be a desperate attempt, I would say so. I understand the urgency. I understand that you're trying to think. You're so passionate that perhaps you're just like, you gotta go. I hate seeing this, that you just gotta leave, and it's frustrating to see people make the same mistake over and over again, and eventually you're gonna realize, there's only so much that you can tell a person. You need to do this and need to do that, and they're gonna have to find it in their own. You can't make them go. They're gonna go on their own terms, and they're gonna go when they feel that they're ready to go. Now, I'm not saying that there are exceptions, of course. I mean, when it comes to domestic violence and that kind of thing, and it comes to that, yes, obviously, and any sort of other violence, is that obviously, yeah, there needs to be drastic measures done. But when the abusive spouse or abusive family member is just sitting there and there's nothing going on, those are the moments that you can take to kind of figure out who you are. And I did it. You can do it too. It's not easy, but it can be done. And it just takes a little bit of time. And I'm going to say, if there's anything that you believe in this world, believe that you have a purpose and that you have a reason to be alive. You have a reason to breathe air. You have a reason to be here and to exist. And you have a right to speak. You have a right to take up space. But you just have to find the balance and find that there are times to take up space, and there's times to speak, and there's times to not speak, and times where you need to just take a step back and realize, yeah, maybe I'm not needed in this equation. Maybe I'm not needed here. And I can tell you this, if you have to cut off, whether it's through any kind of communication, social media, phone numbers, emails, whatever it is, and that's the only way that you can keep your sanity. I'm going to say many great people have done that. How many celebrities and how many great leaders have had to leave their families and their friends and their comfort and everything they've ever known just so they could reach their potential? That would have never happened if they hadn't taken that first step and realized, I've got this, I'm powerful. And we underestimate our powers as human beings. We cannot change other people because they are individual people, but we can inspire people by making small changes. And these are tiny little changes that we can make. They're not big ones, but when it comes to intention, intend to do little things. Intend to do something that's worthwhile. But not just that. When you do something and you don't do, let's say you only do one thing today, and that's wake up. That's an accomplishment. Let's say there's only one thing you do today. You wake up, you take a shower, you have coffee. You're alive. That's an accomplishment. Think of everything that you do, every single step, as a victory. You don't have to play a freaking gong like Lwaxana Troi in Next Generation, but you can do certain things, like taking little tiny steps and saying, okay, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I'm not going to get this all done today, obviously, but I'm going to try, hey, you know, like when you have, let's say you want to clean your room. Okay, clean your room. Okay, well, let's worry about garbage. Okay, let's worry about, oh yeah, there's some trash I need to take out. Or let's worry about changing the bed sheets, making the bed, vacuuming, those kind of things. And you can do, if you can do just one thing a day, or there's just, let's say that you spend 5 minutes just vacuuming, and that's it. Achievement unlocked. You just did it. Yay! Let's do a dance now. But let's not and say we did. Yeah. So yay, you can do that. Now reward yourself. Give yourself a little reward. Buy something on Amazon. Get something that comes from China. No. Get something that you like. Do something for yourself that actually empowers that. So every time you do that, you get a little treat. You get a little thing. You get something good out of it. And it's not just, oh, I made the bed. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's about attitude. It's about intention. It's about the energy that you bring to it. If you have an energy of like, I'm not going to get this done and this is going to be horrible and I don't want to do this, which is my overall feelings when I think about cleaning my room too. But when I first start out. But I can tell you there's nothing more empowering doing little tiny things around, you know, whether it's just putting your dish in the sink and doing that, making a meal for yourself, doing, you know, things like that. And this is for you. This ain't for nobody else. This is for you. Take care of yourself because there's only one of you. There's not, you know, you don't have other, I'm sorry, you're not like, some of us are not like Elon Musk. We don't have other people that can take care of us, essentially. And people that can just, you know, that can maintain our health, and we don't have life coaches and stuff like that. Some of us actually have to do things ourselves. And you know what? The best therapist that's out there is you. Yeah, it's you. You're the best therapist. You're the best counselor. You're the best company that you can have, actually. Because you're you. You know you. You should. But you need to get, if you don't know you, if you don't know you, if you don't know you, if you don't know yourself, get to know who you are. And that means embracing some of the darker parts of you. That means looking at your shadow and realizing that's part of you too. That's that you can't just put your shadow in a cupboard somewhere or put it in on a shelf. think of Peter Pan. He was lost without his shadow because that was part of him. That was, and he wanted it to be attached to him. And he didn't care about the pain that he was going to go through to make that possible. That should be an inspiration for you, because that right there, think of just Peter Pan himself. He did everything. He went through pain just so that he could be that shadow could be part of him. And that's what we should do as well. And it's going to be one stitch at a time. It's not going to be fun, but the mundane things, that's what makes these little mind tricks work. That's what that's what this is about. The magic is you. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. And I hope you all have a beautiful, blessed day. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, that's pretty much it.